President Joe Biden says Israeli PM Netanyahu is making a mistake in Gaza and he no longer supports the tactics of the IDF. He wants Israel to lay down arms just 6 months after they were laying down the bodies of 1,300 of their murdered citizens. Joining me now is Eylon Levy, a man who was until very recently an Israeli government spokesman. Eylon, welcome to Never Mind the Ballots.
Hello,
do you
Harry.
agree with Joe Biden?
No, Israel is going to continue going after Hamas, doing everything it can to bring back the hostages. We know that Hamas and Islamic Jihad are executing the hostages, starving them, torturing them, raping them, and we're not going to allow that to continue.
What do you think Joe Biden's playing at? Why has he changed his tack like this all of a sudden?
I don't think anyone expected this war to last quite as long as it has. Unfortunately, now we're entering well into the American presidential calendar. The war has become more than a distraction and nuisance. It's become a political problem for President Biden, who is now coming under increasing pressure from the left of his party. But President Biden knows that for him, the ultimate foreign policy victory will be for Israel to defeat and destroy Hamas and bring back the hostages. And if this war, which Hamas started, ends with that terrorist army still on its feet, threatening to repeat the atrocities of October 7th again and again, that'll be a shocking indictment of American policy in this war.
So you think Biden's playing to, the left of his party in a bid to secure his position over the lives of, Israeli hostages?
I think for the United States and other countries as well, this war has become a problem that they would like to wish away. Unfortunately for us here in Israel, we don't have a magic wand or a magic bullet to make this problem go away, because Gaza isn't like when you were fighting against ISIS in Iraq thousands of miles away. It's literally our backyard. Gaza is meters away from people's homes. We still have 133 hostages there. We cannot afford to leave Hamas on its feet. And by the way, as Lord Cameron said just the other day in his column in the Times, no one can expect Israel to live alongside anymore next to Hamas while it threatens to perpetrate these atrocities again and again. He's hopeful there'll be some sort of diplomatic dialogue that will see Hamas dissolve itself. We don't think that's going to happen. And that's why it's important that Israel's allies back it to the hilt, so we make sure that Hamas can never do that again and we get those poor hostages back home.
Talking of Lord Cameron, and we'll get on to him a little later on as well on another matter, but he said in that same piece at the weekend that the world needs to seek peace in Gaza, even if Hamas will not sign up to a deal. And Joe Biden now saying unilaterally Israel must lay down arms for a matter of weeks and months. That's another word for that is surrender, right?
No, not at all. I read Lord Cameron's column. He said that he wants to see a temporary pause that will lead to a sustainable ceasefire. But then he asks a rhetorical question: what will happen if Hamas doesn't agree to a deal? And he then doesn't say that Israel's allies should force it to surrender. He says that the world needs an actionable plan to prepare for the continuation of this conflict, to take steps to alleviate the suffering of civilians in Gaza, make sure they're as protected as possible. But the solution isn't to throw Israel under a bus. The solution is to do everything possible to help civilians while standing by Israel's side. And if the UK, the US, other countries want to see a deal that will let aid in and hostages out, the way to do that isn't to pressure Israel. The way to do that is to pressure Hamas. Because at the moment, Hamas thinks that the international community will eventually grow bored with Israel, tired with Israel, and do its work for it. And Hamas needs to know that until it releases those hostages and lays down its arms, Israel has a full right to go after the monsters who perpetrated the October 7th atrocities.
Is that how Biden's words have landed? Is that how it feels today where you are, that you're being thrown under a bus?
Increasingly, it seems that there is a crisis in relations between Israel and the United States. But President Biden has said Israel has every right to go after Hamas. He hasn't ruled out an operation in Rafa. He said he wants to see a plan that will enable civilians to be protected. And Israel is working on such a plan to help evacuate civilians, get them out of harm's way temporarily, so that we can destroy the last 4 Hamas battalions inside Gaza. As the Prime Minister here has been saying, you don't extinguish 3/4 of a fire. You extinguish the whole fire. And if you leave a quarter of Hamas's army standing in Rafah, that's a surefire recipe for the next round of conflict, because they'll just regroup, rearm and refire.
Now, Eylon, I can't help but notice you're now ex-Israeli government spokesman. What happened?
A story that has far more to do with domestic Israeli politics than the British press picked up. In Israel, it was widely reported in the middle of January that the Prime Minister's wife wanted me removed from my position because I had been active in protesting against this government, against its judicial reform plans over the summer.
But you came to the flag in the wake of the atrocities on October the 7th, and was one of the most vocal.
I don't wish on any country the sort of crisis that saw Israeli civil society mobilize, come together, put political differences aside, and fight together for what matters, destroying Hamas and bringing back the hostages. But as the Israeli media have been reporting, that was the context for some of the drama of recent months.
There's also a run-in with David Cameron, the aforementioned Lord Cameron as well, wasn't there, that you directly corrected, I think, something he said on Twitter from your own personal account. Was that not anything to do with it?
The Israeli media made a mountain out of a molehill and sensationalized something that was actually very innocuous. I had replied to Lord Cameron on Twitter about the question of humanitarian aid. I understand that someone in the Foreign Office sent a WhatsApp to someone in Israel asking whether my tweets criticizing the Foreign Secretary or replying to him were reflective of Israeli government policy. And as I said, the context of the drama in Israel is well known to everyone here.
So it wasn't Dave, it was domestic.
As the media here are reporting.
All right, while we're talking of WhatsApp, something's just breaking this morning I wanted to pick your brains on. There's reports today that if you have an iPhone and you download the new software update that Apple are offering, and then you type the word Jerusalem into a text message on WhatsApp or iMessage, you are recommended to use a Palestinian emoji. No other city has that flag connected to it. What do you think is going on there?
Clearly a bizarre glitch that I can only attribute to human error at Apple. Hopefully one that will be corrected in the next software update. Jerusalem is, of course, the capital city of Israel. It's where the Prime Minister's office is, the Knesset, the Foreign Ministry, the President's residence, the eternal historic capital city of the Jewish people dating back to King David, and I expect that will be corrected with the next update.
So you'd like to see Apple address this? You don't think there's someone perhaps making a political point buried deep in Apple there?
Oh, they may well be making a political point, but as I said, that too is a human error.
An error of fact rather than an error of judgment. But surely that's quite provocative for one of the world's biggest tech companies to be openly questioning whether Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
Absolutely, and I would expect them to look into that and ask how that happened, especially if, as you say, no other cities get associated with flags in that way. But, you know, for us in Israel, it's been very clear what we are fighting against with Hamas since October 7th. Hamas didn't launch the October 7 atrocities because they wanted a two-state solution. Hamas launched the October 7th atrocities because they want to destroy the state of Israel. And as you see people chanting on the streets of London, they want from the river to the sea, which means eliminating the state of Israel. And a glitch like this on Apple that erases the capital city of Israel and wants to hand that over to the Palestinians is unfortunately part of this global wave of hostility that we're seeing against Israel.